Guys, we are going to kick off another PDOCS live stream series episode here, Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern, same time, same place, same ugly mug. But I have a better looking guy on the other end of the screen, Gary, and we're going to introduce him in just a moment. Just really quickly, as always, guys, I'm going to just start off with the topic. And our main goal here, and Gary's going to reiterate this, we were just talking about this before the intro, is to deliver value here today. So the topic is going to be referral-based partnerships, and Gary's going to dive into that in a lot more depth. But what I always say when we do these live streams, and my number one intent is to bring you guys something where you can have at minimum one key takeaway that you can go implement and start doing today, tomorrow, this week, right? So don't get overwhelmed. Don't think I don't want to start. Gary's going to run through 5 specific areas. Doesn't mean jump into all 5 at once, and he'll give you the strategy. But at least, and I always say, take away one thing, go implement. There's going to be one thing that you're like, damn, I'm already kind of doing that, but I never thought I can convert it like that, right? There's going to be low-hanging fruit you're going to find from anything that myself or the experts, talk about when we do these live streams. So that's my challenge to you. In the comments below, let me know what that one thing was. It's not, you can't do it now, but later on in the session, or if you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button. Let me know in the comments what the one takeaway. And as always, anything that Gary provides, resources, his contact information, that can all be found in the description as well. And let's just dive into it. So Gary, thanks for joining us. And why don't you start with telling the people a little about how we came in contact with one another, and then go a little into like your expertise and what you're going to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. So if I remember correctly, I think we actually did come together by being introduced by someone, and it was for a collaboration. So it's a great sort of subject point for today.
Yeah.
I think it was Osman who recommended you when I was looking for people that are experts in outreach and DM outreach in particular, and I wanted to do a collaboration on that with someone, and he recommended you. I checked out what you're all about, and I was like, yeah, this is definitely someone I want to bring on. So yeah, we was connected from introduction, so it shows that this stuff works.
100%. That's what I thought was interesting. I mean, I always ask that to people, but not always is their answer applying to the topic of today's, discussion on how we met. So definitely more relevant. And a little about why you use this approach, why you teach this approach, and your experience with it.
Yeah, so I started in my business journey about 10 years ago, and for a while I struggled. I was doing what a lot of other people do, like the cold outreach and that sort of stuff. It works, but it wasn't aligned with me for a large part of it. And then I started to learn a little bit more about word of mouth and referral marketing and that sort of thing. And all of a sudden it clicked for me. I was like, I love this approach to business. It works like any form of marketing if you do it right, but it just aligned with me perfectly. And it was all about building relationships and having conversations and providing great service and that sort of stuff. So I was just like, yeah, this is brilliant. I've got to really dive into this in a lot more, and I've got to really implement it. And then from there, I kind of built my businesses off word of mouth and referrals. And then about 3 years ago, I started to have a lot of more conversations around word of mouth and referrals with people just because I was interested in their experience with it. And then I started to see a common theme that a lot of people were saying that referrals and word of mouth was like some of their favorite ways to get clients. They loved getting referrals, but they just weren't getting them consistently and predictably. And I was a bit confused by that at first. I was like, what is going on here? This has been like my best way to get clients and everyone else is struggling. It seemed like everyone else was struggling. And then I realized that most people aren't doing referral marketing. They're kind of waiting for referrals to fall in their lap. They're doing great work, but that's only a small part of actually getting the referrals. So then it kind of clicked like, okay, I think there's a need for something like this. And I started to look for marketing companies that specialize in word of mouth and referrals, and saw a few, but there was none really doing it the way that I envisioned my company would look like, and just decided to start on it really and go from there. And it just kind of built up from there.
That's great. That's great. And that's one thing I've always actually said to people, what most marketing companies do when you're talking to a prospect that's trying to increase their leads or their conversations or whatever, right? A lot of times they're like, well, I get some referrals. And normally my question back to them is, how consistent and predictable are those? Most people don't have an answer. They're like, I don't necessarily know when the next one's coming. That's because they don't have a system. And like you said, they're kind of waiting for them to fall in their lap because they're doing great work. So word of mouth is the best type of leads and prospects. And still to this day, I went over one on my last live stream last week about outreach approaches. And one of those was a referral and how quick it converted, right? And there's a reason for that, and how quick you can just get right into the subject matter of the conversation or your objective. But I think that's a great point. And that's what was lacking and still is lacking. If people don't know about what you teach or don't know about it, it's like, how do I do that consistently and predictably, right? Which kind of ties into probably what you want to start talking about, yes, and in your five different categories, for lack of a better phrase, of referral marketing, where the best places are or audiences.
Yeah. So I called it the core five referral sources, and that's essentially how I see it. And one of them, most people are focusing on, but they're not focusing on it enough. So that's getting more referrals from your clients, past and present. But there are four others. I think you alluded to it in your kind of promotional post, but I don't know if you want me to just go through the five of them now, or whether you want to go through one by one. It depends how you prefer to do it.
I mean, yeah, why don't you just list all five really quickly, and then let's start diving into them one by one, and talk about each one, why it's relevant, and I'm sure I'll have questions, and if anyone else hops in, they'll be able to ask at the end. But yeah, dive into it. I think everyone would want to hear all five at first, and then the breakdown of each one, and why it's important, or when is the right time and place for these, so on and so forth.
Yeah, brilliant. So yeah, the five sources. The first one and the best one is your clients, past and present. They're always going to be your best source of referrals, but they might not necessarily be your most consistent, and we'll touch on that later on. The second one is collaborations and strategic partnerships with other businesses, so creating referral partnerships. The third one is affiliates, which can tie into the customers and the partnerships one, but it's slightly different. So that's another thing that we can touch on. And then the fourth one is employees. If you've got a business where you do employ other people, training those to be able to identify referral sources and bring referrals in, and not just your sales team, could be your entire team. And then the other one is through networking activities. So yourself building your network and building relationships. They're what I've found to be the most predictable five referral sources, and why I call them the core five, and the ones that I focus on in my business. There are probably others in there, but most of them will tie in some way to the five that I just mentioned.
Yeah, you're probably right. I'm sure there are others. There's others of everything, but it doesn't mean they're even in the same category of effectiveness. You know what I mean? You can say I got a referral here, and it could be a one-off. It's another way to get them, but it doesn't necessarily turn into a system. That makes sense. So when you went through those, a couple that I think about right off the top of the head for my businesses and my experience over the years that I would talk about a little, maybe have some questions back, is other businesses, probably where I've done the most and the best. And also kind of leads into that bait and switch post that I made a couple of weeks ago with the referral collaborations. Because again, I think that's become a new tactic. You and I talked about it a little when I made that post a little earlier in the week when you and I talked, briefly on the phone. And I think that kind of ties up. I teach something to my clients, and what we've done very well is called MBPs, mutually beneficial partnerships. And I think I might have talked about this a little when you interviewed me months ago. But that's one source that's been really integral in all three of the companies that I am owner or a part of. Those have been huge. I think personally I could do better in the area of my clients and referrals. I don't think we've used affiliates in certain areas. I don't think we've ever executed really good on there. When you said employees, I was thinking most companies, if again, and I'm sure this is what you're going to touch on, but I'm thinking my employees already know to look for referral services and how to do that, right? And I have about 17 team members on our payroll at Audience Lab. So I think that's interesting. I would think that comes down to the company culture and communication and a lot of things like that. And that's kind of always been in bed since people started. So maybe it's kind of commonplace, and that's missing in some other areas. And the network is the most interesting because that one I think is the most vague in terms of how to execute or what to look at. A network, again, I just think without going into depth. So those are my initial thoughts when you just mentioned the five sources. I don't know if you have any thoughts on what I just said, or you want to just go into breaking each one down.
The ones I would touch on actually is where you said about the employees part, and you're saying that yours are already trained to be able to bring referrals, and that's great. But actually, so it's surprising how many businesses don't do that. They might do it with their sales team because they think, well, obviously they want to be looking for referral opportunities. But it's surprising how many that they've got where they're not part of the sales team and they don't train them on how to look for referrals and to actually talk about their business to friends, family, associates, that sort of thing. So yeah, that might be something for us to talk about in this one.
No, that's certainly interesting. Yeah. And then I thought about, like, to me, it seemed like commonplace because that's the way kind of, again, that our culture is and people are trained up on from the time they onboard into our team. So yeah, and I get it. That's what I was thinking about right as I was saying. I'm like, a lot of people just must not be doing this or focusing on it or just overlooking. which is the same with a lot of things. But talk about how to execute more referrals with your existing clients.
Yeah, so the one thing that most people will do, hopefully are doing, if they're not, then that's a serious problem and a completely different problem, is that they're doing great work. They're providing great results for their clients, customers, and whatever it is that they do. But then it needs to be systematized in the sense of how do you then use that to generate more referrals? What are you doing on a day-to-day basis? Thinking about the client journey, thinking about the client relationships, because some businesses are great at marketing, they're great at getting people through the door, but then they can't keep their customer. And if they can't keep their customer, they're not going to be getting referrals. So the first thing is to become great at keeping customer, keeping your clients in the door, and then turning them into advocates so that they do recommend you to other people. And ultimately, if you want to boil it down into one simple thing, it's providing a great client journey. And far too many businesses, unfortunately, don't do that. They might have a good product or service, but what about the experience that the customer is getting whilst being provided with that? And if that's great, that's where the referrals generally will come from if you ask for them and you ask them in the right way. But sometimes a great product isn't enough, especially if it's coupled with a bad experience. Because I don't know if it's about you, but I've had things where I've bought a product and actually the product's done what it's supposed to do, but the client experience was rubbish. And I'm like, I'm never going there again, even though I technically got what I paid for.
Yep. No, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. I think the two things that you mentioned in there that business owners or experts or coaches, might overlook when they're working with clients is one thing I've always done is when they've gotten a certain result or they're stoked about what they've gone through, I'll be like, hey, Gary, I'm not looking for a testimonial or anything like that, but just tell me what's your experience been like working with us in the last 60 days and just shut up, right? And just let them talk because that is actually going to be a glowing review. Things you can use in marketing, things you can use in future networking. And when you get engaged with people, or when somebody asks, hey, how good do you think you are at what you do? Or, hey, man, listen to one of my students. I'd rather have them talk for me, right, than me try to talk about how good I am. And then another thing is letting your clients know you have a referral type of program. Maybe you've never embedded that, and it's simple to say, hey, man, you got great results. If you refer a friend or family member, there's a 10% what it is, right? Like even letting them know or setting that up internally. Like my clients know that if they refer somebody, there's a percentage in it for them.
Yeah, and actually what I advocate for my clients is to let their clients know that they're going to be asking for referrals from the very first day that they become a client. So not ask for the referral on the first day, but they will be in the future. So essentially it's like, and it might even be before they buy something, but let's just say, for example, this example, on the first day, they just paid something, they're going through onboarding, and you're going to say something like, I just want you to know that in 3 months' time, 6 months' time, or whatever the average is, if you achieve what it is that we are setting out to achieve today, would you be willing to refer us to someone else? And in 99% of the cases, that will be a yes. So then what you can then do is in 3 months and 6 months' time, you can then go to them and say, you remember that conversation we had on the first day that if you get an extra result, that I'll be asking for referrals? Well, you've got that result. I'd love to have that conversation now. Is that okay? If you hadn't done that first bit, that could have been a bit of a surprise. And it's all of a sudden, it's a bit of like, oh my God, I've got to now think about referrals. Whereas if you put that on the first day, and even if you reinforce it throughout the client journey, it then isn't a surprise. And then they're probably already thought about who might be a good introduction or a good referral for you. So it makes it a little bit easier to have that conversation. And in many cases, they might actually send a referral before that day comes because they've already started to think about it and they find someone, they speak to someone, they're like, you speak to this person and you haven't even had to ask for that referral. So these things that we do can lead to us getting more referrals without asking for it. But ultimately, to begin with, you probably are going to need to ask until it becomes habit for the other person to send referrals your way.
Awesome. No, that's another good point. So let's move to the second one. What should people look for? What should they know? And maybe what should they know to look out for with like other businesses and collaborations and partnerships in that sense? What's your feedback or your summation of how to approach that one?
Yeah, so when it comes to the collaborations and partnerships, there's two things that I look for in every partnership. One of them is some sort of synergy in the business. So it could be a complementary product or it could be you serve a similar audience but in a different way so that it makes sense for the collaboration. It's not just random. And then the other one is that you get on well with the other person, you synergize with them, and there's some value based, something in the values of you that you share. so that there's not a complete polarization in the way that you run your business. So like if you've got someone who is very outspoken, maybe swears a lot, and then you've got another one who's really soft spoken and doesn't believe in swearing and doesn't believe in whatever else it is that they do, then it's like this collaboration just isn't going to work. But if you've got two people where they actually just get on really well, that can help influence the partnership and get better results, because you just connect well. And like me and you here, we're having a great conversation. Have done in the past. We did the collaboration. It works. Whereas it might not work if there was a completely different personality. In some cases it can, but the majority of the time it needs to be some sort of synergy in the values and the way that you connect with them.
I would agree with some of that. I'll tell you an example of what I look for, and it's very similar. So I was kind of nodding my head and grinning a little when you were saying it, and kind of how one of ours played out to be to pay off in well over 6 figures, maybe over 7 figures in total business, just from what this partner drove us. But one thing I look for, similar to you, I look for somebody that's in a similar marketplace. More importantly, serving the same audience I'm looking for. I don't even necessarily care right off the bat if they're necessarily an industry competition or colleague or however you want to categorize it. The second thing I look for is I like somebody where their product and service and ours put together benefits the end user another result. That way, when we partner with their business, their customers get a better result. When our customers partner with that service, they get a better result, and us as business owners both driving more revenue. So I look for them to always be, I call a triple win, a win-win-win for each collaboration as well as the end user of the products. So for us, with our Audience Lab platform, which is a data and technology platform where we are tracking 280 million users and 1.9 trillion behaviors daily, we can go build in-market lists of certain audience that searched roof repair, crypto, home finance, whatever it is. We can track by zip code, by income, by first and last name, get you their email, their ad profile, their first and last name. So we can do a lot of things in our data platform. We partnered with a company that has a voice AI, call bot, but it's you know what I mean? It's a whole voice, whatever. There's quite a handful of companies. Anyway, this particular company spends about $250,000 a month on ads, and people who actually buy their high ticket back end product, one of the reasons and why this partnership we're good when we talk with the business owners is like we talk with their sales team, and the number one objection why people wouldn't sign up, or the number one reason people would cancel the platform, is after a little bit they didn't have enough leads to deploy it to. So why am I paying X amount a month for these call bots when I don't have leads to deploy it to? So we're like, hey, what if like when you got that objection on a sales call, you could say, when you enroll, we're going to get you 1,000 free B2B leads to use for the first month, right? That's going to help us overcome that objection. So now they send people in their funnel right into our thing. They get 1,000 free from a list we build them. And then as soon as they run out, they get taken into a checkout funnel to come buy more from us. So again, the user gets a better end result. We get sales from people that would have never heard of us. Like we spend 30 to 50K a month on our own ads. Even if I shut that off today, I'm still getting somebody else spending 5X that in ads and driving a certain percentage, and only the buyers into my company that can use my service. So they get less objections, they get higher LTV. We get people that would have never heard of our brand coming into someone else's paid ads, and the user gets an end result. They get a product and then leads to deploy it to. So like that's a more extensive one, but it still started from we're both looking to serve agencies doing between 25 and 50K a month, looking to scale with data, tech, AI. Data tech AI companies, both of us. So we both have the exact same audience. And when your products complement one another, it just makes that much more sense, right? So that's kind of what you said. That's just in exact practice where one worked out really well.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of how it can work really well. Like if you've got two products that work together really well, or two businesses where they've got the same audience, it just connects in some way. So like for me, I've got somebody that I often refer to that's a mindset expert. And I get people that come in and the business is maybe set up well to get referrals, but the business owner's mindset actually could hold them back. And I see that before. And I'm like, actually, I think you should go and work with this person first, because I think they can get you in a much better position and the foundation's right for you to come and work with me the best results possible. So that's an example where I can refer them to someone else first.
Yeah.
Works because I know that when they get that piece right, the results they get with me is going to be even better. But I don't really do mindset coaching or anything like that. So it makes sense for me to actually send them to them first. So that's just another example of how I could collaborate with someone and actually create a referral partnership that's beneficial for both of us.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody else that has a skill set that builds your prospect up to the point where they're ready to work with you and get better results. And that's another great way to look at it. Yeah, 100%. That's awesome. Let's talk about the affiliates, because some people would think that's similar to reaching out to other businesses and to the network aspect, but I see how it's different. But explain that a little bit, and how people can utilize that.
Yeah, so when it comes to the affiliates, the reason I said earlier on is that they can link into the clients and also the partnerships is because your clients and your referral partners can become affiliates for you at the same time. But the main point of difference between a referral collaboration with another business and the affiliates is always going to be for a commission, whereas the referral partnership might be for a mutual exchange of referrals. So yes, the partnership could have an affiliate commission linked to it, but an affiliate wouldn't be looking for referrals back. They're only looking for the commission.
Right.
So either one of those can work, and it really depends on the reason for the other person. What's going to make them you the most amount of referrals? Is it going to be you sending referrals back, or actually the money that you can send them for that referral? And that's essentially the main difference between the two, which is why I say that your clients and referral partners can be affiliates as well, but you can then also build a team of dedicated affiliate marketers who also promote your business, but only in return for the commission that you provide them.
Gotcha. That makes sense. So with that one, what is the difficulty in setting that up and being able to track it? Because that's what I've always heard with affiliate programs is, how do I track it? How do I track when somebody buys? How do I track the payouts? Is that simple to solve? Would you say there's a standard way to do that?
There is a standard way to do it. So I do my affiliate teams and what I do for my clients, I build it slightly differently to how a lot of companies will do it in the affiliate space. But the traditional way is to use affiliate links, and then that can be linked to a tracking system that allows them to track referrals, where they're coming from, where the commissions have to go, and it can do it all automatically. So you can use AI software in order to provide that and make it as easy as possible to track. But the
Would
way that
that
I
mean, before you go in the way you do it, would that mean you need
every affiliate will need their own link, and then that link will track to or like link to your tracking system that will allow you to see who's sending the referrals and where and that sort of thing. But it can be quite complicated even with automation. So the way that I do it is I look for my affiliates to bring and invite people into a community of some sorts. And then within that community, when they're invited into it, what I do is I just track that person back to the person that they invited them in. So like one of my affiliates invites someone into the group. I don't ask my affiliates to do any sales whatsoever. All I ask them to do is invite people into my community. And then if I sell to that person, I'll give them the commission just for making that invitation, because that's somebody otherwise I might not have got. At that point, the only thing I need to track is who invited the person into my community that I just sold to. If I know I didn't bring them in myself, someone else must have done it. So it can be something as simple as them telling me who invited them in, or say, for example, on a Facebook group, it will say if somebody invites them, this person was invited by X person, so then I can put it into my own tracking system. And then if I sell anything to that person, I know I then can go and give an affiliate commission to that person that was invited.
That is simpler, and I've kind of done it more that way too. That's why I asked. Yeah. Let's talk about the fourth one and what we kicked off talking about a little, because I had some thoughts on it, but your own employees and what to look for and how to implement that. And then where does it actually, let's start with where does that start? Because when you say somebody that has a team of employees, so does that start when you have one employee, two employees? Do you not want to do this till you have a few? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I actually think you should start from the moment you get one. Yeah, if you've only got one employee, the amount of referrals you might get from employees is probably going to be somewhat limited because you've only got one person that can do that. But you might as well start from the very beginning. Why wait until you've got 10 employees and then try and get all of them up to speed? Whereas you can just do it one by one. And eventually, once you get to the 10th person, you've already got 9 people who are great at bringing you in referrals. So rather than having to train 10 people in unison, you're only having to train one person at a time. So yeah, I would start with the first person, even if that means that to begin with it's somewhat slow in terms of the results you're going to get.
Excellent. Oh, that's well said. Cool. And what can people do to get better? Let's say they already have a team of 10 and they're not getting any referrals outside of the sales team whatsoever.
So I think the first thing is, it might even seem like it's not linked to the referrals piece whatsoever, and it links a little bit to the client part, is that to create a culture of referrals among your employees, the same way you would with your clients, in that you let your employees know that you're going to want them to talk about you to their friends, talk about you to anyone that they meet who would be interested in what you've got going. Train them to identify potential referral sources and then how to do that, the rewards that they can get from it. So it's like, okay, we pay you X amount in salary, but if you refer other people to us, there's more money for you to be had here. There's bonuses. It could be rewards that incentivizes them. So it's really about creating that culture of referrals from the moment they join your team, and get them wanting to send referrals, not making them feel like they're obliged to. It's actually to a point where they're like, actually, I want to do this because, yeah, I'm going to be rewarded for it, but also because I love the company that I work with and I want to shout about it and say how great you are, which then comes down to creating a great business, creating a great culture. And then it doesn't feel like it's just a part of their job, because if they do feel like it's a part of their job and they have to send referrals, they're less likely to want to do it and they're not going to feel as good about it. Whereas if you make them feel good about sending referrals and they want to do it and it's in their best interest to, they're going to keep doing it.
I would agree. It comes back to, are people just going through the motions? Oh, it's a job in this company, but I go to work every day, because those people aren't going to be good referral ambassadors for your business. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's all about the right culture, the right people. I think it comes a lot down to the hiring process and really vetting. And again, how you onboard and the expectations you set. So, for instance, I just made a new audience lab hire within the last 2 weeks ago for our support team. We're onboarding so many new clients and people into the software. Every one of our users, depending if they start with the smallest package or the most expensive, it's a one-on-one onboarding call into the platform, just how we operate. For people to get best results, we know that's necessary. So obviously we need to boost up the support team. And I went through a week or two, did a handful of interviews, just didn't feel strong. But like, I could have got somebody that was capable, but I didn't just make a decision. And my business partner was like, "Hey, we need someone in there really quick." I'm like, "I agree, but I need the right person rather than really quick, right?" And waited till I found that other right person. He turned out to be right in my network. I'm like, why didn't I message him with the opportunity? Because I honestly thought he's more money than what I was offering for this, is the one reason I didn't. But I asked him about it and I knew he was looking for something. He's like, "Dude, I've been following you forever. I love what your company's doing." He's been a past client. He knows how the software works, like ideal for this role. And he already knows that we kind of set the culture when somebody comes on, like, "Hey, we're a tech and data company, and we work primarily with large advertisers and brands, spending more than 5 figures per month on ad spend, or agencies managing, 50K plus minimum a month ad spend. So if any of your friends, family, you're getting conversations, our data and our software can help them, get better results." So they kind of know right away who we're looking for, who we're serving, what our thing does. When you get the right person, they're all about it, and they like, "Oh my God, this product's amazing." They think, whatever it is, product, service, it doesn't really matter, but they're an ambassador for it. And they either have had knowledge, have had their hands, or they really want to get their hands on your stuff. Like, those are great people to bring on board, I've noticed.
Yeah, absolutely. And it all comes back to the onboarding, and the same as with the clients. If you get the onboarding right and you hire the right people, the same as if you take on the right clients, that's just going to lead into getting more referrals. And if you're hiring bad people that aren't aligned with your company, or you're taking on the clients that just aren't the right people, they're not going to get the result, the referrals aren't going to be there.
Yep, exactly. And let's go into the last one that I said was a bit more vague, the network.
Yeah. So with the networking piece, this is the bit that is probably vague because it's going to be a different approach for every single person. What is it that you're looking to achieve from your networking? But ultimately, it comes down to creating conversation, creating relationships, and enhancing relationships in some way. So what is it that you're doing? It could be that you go to networking events. It could be that you have one-to-one conversations, or you can incorporate your networking into the collaborations part in some way. But ultimately, it comes down to the relationships that you're building. And is the work that you're doing to build your network and to meet new people and to connect with people, is it actually helping you to grow your business? If it's not, that means you're struggling in some way, you're not doing something in the right way. But ultimately, that's where the networking piece comes down to. And it doesn't matter how you do it, whether it's one-to-one, whether it's in groups or whatever, but it comes down to building great relationships outside of your business with other business owners or other people that could be good referral sources for you, and you likewise for them.
And it comes down to consistent conversations, to not just do it one day and then not do it the next, and whatever, have a set number. Maybe I need 10 conversations per day. Maybe it's 15, whatever that number is. Consistency as well. I mean, all the things we talk about, and no matter who I bring on, really always boils back down to that with almost every strategy or tactic or approach, right? It's like, you can't just do it once and get a result that's evergreen and everlasting, right? You have to keep putting effort, keep networking, keep doing. I've actually taught a few lessons going back on 2 different live streams and 2 different groups I've taught over the years, which I call the CIA method, just super important for consistent implementation and accountability. If you can be consistent with your numbers, if you can implement these tactics and strategies I'm showing you each day, and you can hold yourself accountable to the KPIs and the numbers, you're going to see results. Like, and that could be the same with almost anything we teach, but I think it's always really important to emphasize. What I tell people when it comes to networking, organic outreach, starting conversations is, first off, identify the platform. And not to say you can't use more than one, but identify, where do you already have a strong audience? Which one are you on the most already, even socially, if you're going to start to do this? And then, you know, people also get a little apprehensive of like, well, my social media is like more for like family and friends and yada, yada, yada. What if I start just talking all about business? You don't have to just be all of a sudden drop your personality and talk all business. I've learned that people buy from people that see them as an expert, but also see them as a person. You know, I have content that's very lifestyle and business. You'll see results and a screenshot of great sales numbers or a testimonial, then me out to dinner with my daughter, me out at a live concert, whatever. Like, people, I think, relate. So like, you just slowly mix in content about your business, your results. The more you talk about it, the more, and if what I'll say to some people, if you're nervous, apprehensive about doing outreach and networking, like, oh, when people start to unfriend me, they probably weren't your friend in the first place. If something you love and you talk about and they just don't like it. So I wouldn't put too much into it. If you look back 5 years ago this month, I made the leap out of a corporate job and into social media and digital marketing. It was November 15th, 2019. At that time, I had 200 friends on my Facebook, and I had those same worries. Like, you know what I mean? Now I have over whatever 6,000, just because I'm slow and meticulous about how I grow with the right people, not huge audiences. But whatever way, it's 20x, and I didn't lose anybody that was a real friend ever. You know what I mean? So that's just a little personal feedback and a thought on it. But always look at the platform that you're on the most, and you already have the biggest network interactive, and start to create some career, some business, some subject matter topic content and videos and results. And all of a sudden, that's what's going to help you get a little bit more, authority and legitimacy in new people's eyes that follow you. I don't know if you have anything to add to that or any thoughts on that.
I do actually, yeah. I'd echo exactly what you just said. So when I started my business on my Facebook account, I heard from people saying, don't mix the two together, create a whole new account for your business. And I was like, do you know what, I can't be asked. I don't want to run 2 Facebook accounts. I just don't want to. And to be honest, didn't use Facebook that much for keeping in contact with a friend before then. But it was just originally just a personal account I had for keeping up with work friends or whatever, and old school friends. And someone did say that just don't mix the two, just keep them separate. And I was like, no, not doing it. Built up my business, and like you said, I've never lost a real friend on Facebook just because I'm talking about business. And I don't only talk about business on Facebook, I'll mix in both. So I use both my single account for both things, for my personal and for business, and it's worked perfectly fine. And actually, there's been a number of occasions where some of my old school friends or people that I know that have actually referred people to me because they've seen me on talking about my business, and then they've got a friend that needs what I've got, and they're actually going to speak to Gary. I know that he's great, all that sort of stuff. He talks about it a lot on his social media. He'll be a great person for you to connect with. So it's been helpful for me to actually get referrals by keeping them together.
You're right. I've got a few old high school friends and people that are like, oh, talk to Ray. He's good with sales and consulting and marketing or whatever, many years later. So, I would agree with 100%. Last thing I would like you to do, actually really quickly, I wasn't sure, do you have any type of resource or cheat sheet or, checklist about what we covered today, or anything about referral marketing you would like to share with people that I got both in the replay on Facebook as well as the description on YouTube? Do you have anything like that?
Yeah, so I mean, I've got what I call my content vault, which I've started building over the last couple of months, where there's some stuff in there about referral marketing, but there's also some things on some of the other collaborations and that I've done, which I'm actually building out and adding more and more stuff to it as I go. And I'd love to give you access to that, so I can give you the link to my content vault, and anyone that wants to learn what the platform is about, they can go and check that out. And it would be a great place for them to learn about me, but also learn from some of the other people that are a part of customers. And then the other thing as well is that if people want to get involved in certainly the collaboration thing, come and join customers. And for the first part where I can introduce you to some of my clients, and that's not going to cost you anything. The bit that people pay for with the facilitation of collaborations is where I give you access to my entire network. Whereas if you want to connect with some of my clients and I'll see whether or not you'd be a great fit for collaboration for some of my clients, I can do that at no cost. So feel free to connect with me and I can
that's cool.
make that happen.
Awesome. So yeah, that'd be great. Send me that over and I will link it both where the replay is on Facebook and I'll drop in the description here on YouTube. And the last thing I wanted to ask you, because again, one thing we kind of led off talking about was how you can help people implement these 5 areas or approaches or the 5, topics we covered today to be able to build a system to get referral leads consistently and predictably. So what are some of the results you've seen? Let me just take, and I know there's going to be a wide variety of results because it happens in all my businesses. It could be very little, but like out of the last 10 people that you've helped work with, on average, how many referral appointments do you think they get either a week or month? I don't know how you track it, but just out of curiosity.
Yeah, so in terms of the tracking, I would say the average is around a 200% increase in referrals from is the average. Some are going to be more, and going to be less because you might have some where they're already well set up and actually getting quite a few referrals. So the room for growth is maybe smaller, but actually in terms of the money, it actually works out being more. But it's as an average, say probably about a 200% increase in referrals, the income that they make through referrals.
Pretty significant increase, 200%. That's always been a good return on any investment I've done.
Yeah, exactly.
Right on, man. Excellent. Well, thank you, Gary. Appreciate you coming on today. Certainly fun, educational, and yeah, I learned at least 2 of these. I think there's some things I picked up that I can implement and do better. And again, that's what I kind of said to leave this off, guys. If any of you guys are tuning in late or skip past the intro or whatever, like go back through and pick something that you can implement. If it's one of those 5 areas, and Gary, you would probably agree, probably start with focusing on one of the 5, right?
Yeah, so I always say that actually is that if you've never done any referral marketing before, and that means not done anything to influence referrals, you're only waiting for the ones that come in, start with 1, maybe 2 of them. So maybe you getting some more referrals from your clients and maybe adding in about collaborations. Don't try and build all 5 in one go because it's going to be slow, it's going to be painful, you're going to make a lot of mistakes, it's not going to feel good to do. Whereas if you really nail 1 or 2 of them, you're going to see much better results. So yeah, definitely start with that. And I loved what you said at the start, where take 1 or 2 things that you can implement today and go and do that, because there's no point trying to take all of this and go and implement all of it because it's just not going to work. But if you take 1 or 2 things from this, or maybe you want to start with 1 or 2 referral sources, that's 100% the best way to go.
Yeah, and what I would say to anybody that's maybe at the earlier stages or the less established business owners, you might not have a lot of clients. Maybe you can't start there if you have 2 of them, right? It's going to be a little more difficult. Or you might not have employees. That's another one. You can always start with your network, your existing network, or start creating a network on any social media platform. And I think Gary and I both reiterated, I would fully recommend whatever profile you're already on, start talking about your thing, whatever you're passionate about, whatever you're helping people with results. And one thing I've always told people that I learned 4 or 5 years ago, I forget where I learned this from, might have been Dan Henry, who I filmed some stuff for later. The whole curious student approach. Let's say you just got a new skill set down, whatever it is, Facebook ads, you're an efficiency coach, you're whatever it is, right? Start talking to your friends and family. Hey, I just got certified. I just, got through this course and I'm now, running Facebook ad campaigns, ready to start your first 2 or 3 for free. Who wants to give me a try, right? Just get your name out there and start to get your value and your service out there if you're early on. I've never been a proponent of don't charge, but with your first couple, 2 or 3 people, it's always great to show you can get results, because I've always told clients, and Gary, you said the same thing, with like number 1 with your clients. Number 1, you got to deliver a good product and a good service if you're going to want that to work. Same thing with people I help. If you're not confident you can deliver results for your clients, I'm not confident I can help you. So, if you're just starting out, get a little confidence by taking on a couple clients, run a couple campaigns, get a coach some results for free, and then have them give you a testimonial. And then that leads into your first, paid sale. So those are areas anyone can start. And that would be my advice. But yeah, definitely turn into some of those approaches, and MVPs with other businesses could be very powerful in some cases.
Yeah, I agree with you. If it's a new business and they haven't got any clients, and I've had that where I've had people come to me and they say, I don't get many referrals. And then they'll say, because I've only had a couple of clients. I was like, well, yeah, if you're looking for referrals from your clients and you've only had two or three of them, it's natural that you're not going to get many. So go and start with some collaborations and partnerships with other businesses and start with a network you've already built. You already know people that you could be asking referrals from. And that can be a great way to start rather than go out and try and sell your services directly. Go out to some of the people that you already know and say, I've just started this new business. This is what it's all about. This is what I do for you. Who do you know that you can send my way? Now, one or two things will happen with that is, well, actually one of three. One of them being that they don't send a referral, but if you do it in the right way, that quite often won't happen, at least getting an introduction. But the other one is they'll make the referral to someone else that they know, or they actually say that I'm that person, I need this, and can I buy it myself? So one of those three things can happen. So you can make the sale anyway directly, but you're not going out and asking for that sale. You're asking for the referral, which if you've done with people that you've already built a relationship with, they're more likely to want to help you.
And I think there's even a fourth section to that, future referrals. Like, hey, Gary, I don't know anyone that can help you right now, but next time I talk to somebody that's struggling with that, I'll give them your number or whatever, right? So
Absolutely.
same thing. It also can lead to future referrals. Sometimes I've always told people a lot of the work we do with outreach doesn't matter if it's just regular organic outreach, if it's networking for referral partners, whatever. Sometimes the work you do is going to pay off immediately and you're going to get a book call in the sales this week. Sometimes the work you're doing is laying the grassroots for 30, 90 days down the road in the person that comes in. That's why you're doing it consistently. You're going to get a mix of both the short-term results and the long-term results. And when those start driving consistently, then you have, as Gary was talking about, more consistency and predictability in your client acquisition system, for lack of a better phrase. So great stuff, Gary. Guys, we will be dropping the content vault that Gary mentioned down in the description and in the replay. Gary, I'll be talking to you soon, and thanks for coming on again, man.
Many thanks. Really enjoyed it. I knew it was going to be a great conversation, and I'm looking forward to any others that we have in the future.
For sure, man. We'll be in touch. I got to run here. You have a great rest of your day, and thanks for taking some time out of your night over there in the UK, man.
Thank you. No worries.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.